A reality by clicking the Outback real estate icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
News time is 7 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast, brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. Coming up in news on this Thursday morning, we've got just a brief recap of that storm from Wednesday afternoon. A line of thunderstorms and severe weather rolled through central Illinois. A recap of some of the happenings in central Illinois from yesterday's rainstorms. The Clinton City Council is setting the record straight on pursuing grants. The C.H. Moore Homestead is open for the season, and also coming up in news on this Thursday, artificial intelligence continues to impact education. A Piatt County school leader weighs in on that, coming up in news on this Thursday. But first, we stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Well, of course, yesterday we saw severe weather roll through central Illinois with mostly just flooding and severe winds, even severe wind damage in some places. Some severe wind damage in the city of Lincoln. There was some flooding in Clinton at the usual spot of Van Buren Street at the viaduct there on the west side of town, or on the east side of town. Also, just again, some flooding in Bloomington and Maroa from yesterday as well. A lot of lightning from yesterday, but a lot of wind damage reported across central Illinois. We'll have more on that coming up this morning on WHOW. We'll get in contact with the folks at EMA to talk about what was going on in central Illinois here in the last 12 hours or so, 15 hours. It was really a hairy afternoon yesterday with tornado sirens going off at points, although, again, National Weather Service not indicating that any tornadoes were spotted in central Illinois. However, that is... we'll get a confirmation on that coming up in news here for this morning. Taking a look at some of those rainfall totals from across the area from the last 24 hours. We start in DeWitt County over by Farmer City, and for those watching on the Facebook feed, we'll try to get a more accurate. Let's see if I can't pull that up for the folks watching on Facebook here for this morning. See if we can't get, let's see, let's do this one. There we go. Apologies for folks listening on the air. We'll get that. We'll get those totals to you here in just a moment. There we go. And you can see in the northwest corner of DeWitt County here, over by Farmer City, 1.5 inches of rainfall reported in DeWitt County from yesterday. Over in Lincoln, around 0.9 of an inch of rain. Also 0.85 inches of rainfall out of Logan County from the last 24 hours. McLean County, Bloomington normal, reports ranging from 1.1 inches to 1.5 inches, even 1.3 inches, close to 1.5 inches of rain just outside of Bloomington normal, just outside of Leroy, about just over 1 inch of rain in the southern portion of McLean County, and just north of the highway at the Woodford and McLean County line, north of Carlock, about 0.8 of an inch of rainfall. Let's see, not a lot out of Macon County this morning, where Logan, Sangamon, and Macon counties meet, about 1.3 inches of rainfall the last 24 hours. Champaign-Urbana reports ranging between 0.6, 2/3, 0.7, 0.75 of an inch of rainfall. St. Joseph around 0.8 of an inch of rain. Around 0.9, close to 1 inch of rainfall in Rantoul. North of Fisher, in the northwest corner of Champaign County, about 1.25 inches of rainfall reported there. Let's see. Let's go into the Peoria area of the listening area this morning. Around 0.9 of an inch of rain on the west side of Peoria. Morton in Tazewell County got about 0.9 of an inch of rain. 1.1 inches in Washington. Of course, those folks don't need any reminders about severe weather. About 1 inch of rainfall in Metamora in Woodford County from yesterday. Down in the Springfield area, about 1 3/10 just outside of Riverton, along 54 there. And let's see, getting into Christian County, just outside of Edinburgh, about 1/2 inch of rainfall reported in that portion of central Illinois. Northern Moultrie County, about 1/2 inch of rain. Arthur, about 1/3 of an inch of rainfall at the Moultrie-Douglas County line. Anything out of Shelbyville this morning? Nothing out of Shelbyville yet. 7/10 of an inch of rainfall in Coles County in Mattoon in central Illinois. Far eastern Douglas County in Newman, about 9/10 of an inch of rainfall reported there. Well, as always, CocoRoz.org is where you can find all those rainfall totals. CocoRoz.org, the latest for rainfall totals. And again, severe weather rolling through central Illinois yesterday. We'll have more on that coming up later this morning on Regional Radio. Getting into the news for this Thursday. During the election cycle, there was plenty of community buzz suggesting Clinton wasn't doing much to chase down grants, like the city was somehow missing the boat on extra funding. At Tuesday night's Clinton City Council meeting, Commissioner Dan Ballinger put that rumor to rest. He highlighted the fire department has a staffer dedicated to writing grant applications, showing the city's already in motion.
So, just so the public knows, the city does go at grants. We just don't talk about them all the time. We like to brag about them when we get them. Also, the fire department has put in for a $300,000 grant, which we stand a very good chance getting for a new building out by the training facility to tear the old animal shelter down and put there to store equipment in. And that's a 0% match. The city pays nothing. So we're waiting to hear from that one. We do have a guy in our department that does our grant work for us, and we aggressively go after them. The city does go after grants.
Police Chief Ben Lowers chimed in, noting the police department recently secured a grant and is actively working on another. So much for the whispers about inactivity.
Topic of grants, I guess I wasn't aware that was a question. The police department itself, within that department, through the Department of Justice, our body armor is paid for 50% through a federal grant with the DOJ. We received a grant from ILEAS to pay for 5 of the 12 TASER projects that we did this past year. And we've just applied for a grant through the Illinois Law Enforcement Training Standards Board to pay for a portion of our cameras that we purchased last year also. A reimbursement grant program, so on that. But I don't have anything else to see.
And to go along with that, it just shows that there's a lot of grants we go after we just really don't talk about.
City Administrator Tony Harris added he's pursuing a grant to fund the upcoming upgrades at Kiwanis Park, proving the city's got its sights set on opportunities.
And I think Tony's got one he's getting ready to talk about.
Yeah, I applied for a grant for the Kiwanis Park in the amount of $50,000. Hopefully we'll get that. I applied for another state grant to help with the elevator cost, and that amount is $42,250.
So we're working on a lot of stuff, okay?
The Kiwanis Park upgrades grant, Kiwanis Park Playground grant is through T-Mobile's Community Improvement Program, a smart move Clinton is not passing up on. Addressing social media rumors is becoming somewhat routine at city council meetings, but Clinton's grant efforts show the facts often outrun the chatter. News time, 7:15 on this Thursday. Still to come today, a Piatt County school leader is talking artificial intelligence and education. We hear from Mary Vogt at Bement Schools coming up later in news. The C.H. Moore Homestead opened for its latest season this week. Joey Long, executive director of the DeWitt County Museum and C.H. Moore Homestead, explains this year the museum will focus on the connection between C.H. Moore and President Abraham Lincoln.
Well, I think this year we're going to focus a little bit more on the C.H. Moore and Abraham Lincoln connection. There are a lot of really strong ties between the two men that a lot of people don't realize. Interesting things about the two men and their lives and the friendship they shared and their partnership and, two of them, doing their lawyering work together and whatnot. So focusing on that. And then that is also, you do not have to be from the DeWitt County area to find that narrative to be interesting, right? Everybody knows who Abraham Lincoln is. Everyone knows the big Lincoln story. But the story of who Abraham Lincoln was before he became the 16th president, the Abraham Lincoln of the Illinois Prairie and what were his experiences here, what were his connections to the people of DeWitt County, like C.H. Moore and the other people of the county, what were Lincoln's experiences here. So these are stories that are lesser known, so you can come and you can hear about someone in history who we all know who Abraham Lincoln is, but you're going to hear stories that you didn't realize, stories that took place here, right here in DeWitt County.
On April 27th, the museum welcomes Guy Fraker, who will detail the relationship between Lincoln and Anne Rutledge, believed to have been Lincoln's first sweetheart.
We open for the season on April 1st, and then on the last Sunday of April, we are going to be welcoming my dear friend Guy Fraker to the museum. Mr. Fraker's written a couple of scholarly books on Lincoln. He does tours on Lincoln. He gives talks on Lincoln. So we are thrilled to be welcoming him to the museum in April. His topic is going to be Abraham Lincoln and Anne Rutledge. Anne Rutledge and Abraham Lincoln spent time together in New Salem, again, talking about that Lincoln before he became president, right? Illinois' Lincoln. And Anne Rutledge supposedly was Abraham Lincoln's very first sweetheart, but he lost her when she passed away. And so this is something that Mr. Fraker has looked into and studied, and he's going to share his insight into that relationship. So that's a free event that will be taking place in the Carriage Barn in April.
For the full calendar of events at the C.H. Moore Homestead, visit chmoorehomestead.org. Also follow them on Facebook for the latest in the happenings and information about the new season. Artificial intelligence is perhaps the next big wave in education. While many see artificial intelligence as a way for students to cheat in school, others see it as a useful tool for education. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools and explains some of her staff recently participated in classes that teach educators how to appropriately use AI in the classroom.
We have a few staff members who have either taken classes or gone to workshops on how to appropriately use AI in the classroom setting. And I think with anything, Seth, you remember when email first became a big thing, Google first became a big thing. So now it's AI. So you need to treat it as a tool and know when the information is accurate and when the information isn't accurate. I relate it back to, in my former life, I was a middle school math teacher for 8 years and, trying to teach students how to do math operations by hand, but then also teaching them how to use a calculator, but making sure that they understood the calculator will only produce what the user gives it. And so if you're giving it the wrong information, you have to know enough to understand, hey, that's wrong. I need to go back and do it. So, just that level of human intelligence along with it, because I thought it was pretty funny. Our middle school math teacher gave a great example where, she does use AI to generate random questions to give students additional practice. It will generate worksheets. But then she did have a student who was trying to use AI to help answer a question. And what AI did was say, create your own mathematical equation now that fits this situation. And so the response AI gave was something along the lines of, there are multiple equations that would fit this situation. And so that's what the student wrote for their answer. There are multiple equations that would fit this situation.
Vogt emphasizes her staff and students use AI as a tool, not a shortcut. They use it to create labs, worksheets, and even help build resumes for students.
I feel like our teachers here really across the board understand this is a tool. It's not a be-all, end-all. Common theme, the teachers who use it, for example, one of our science teachers has used it to develop labs. So, they're able to punch in, here's the lab idea, here are the key dependent variables and what they want the students to learn, and then get that initial draft. But that teacher then goes and edits to make sure that it's appropriate for her students and it actually does what she wants it to do. So that's where I feel like the staff has done a good job of being smart about it, not just, okay, this is what you're saying to do, and so that's what I'm going to do, which I appreciate. Now, on the flip side, Some of our high school students, they have teachers who are helping teach them how to use AI for things like resume building.
Mm-hmm.
And so teaching, again, using AI as a tool that you let it know that you want to create a resume. Here are the key things that you want included in your resume. And then once AI generates that idea, the structure, then the student going in and making sure that it's appropriate. So
Yeah.
I think that's, again, the common theme is using it as a tool and needing to go in and make sure that it's appropriate.
AI can also be used to help a teacher reach a student and understand what the child is struggling with. Vote believes being able to tailor a lesson to a student's understanding is a big benefit of the technology.
Some of those tried and true lessons that teachers have done, if there's somebody who isn't quite working on grade level, they're able to put in what they have done and say, now, modify this for second grade level, if it's a fourth grade class, for example. And then AI is able to make those modifications. So yes, it is helpful in that way. Personally, I feel like I do a pretty decent job communicating, but I have started using AI once, I have information that I want to send out to families. I'll type up what I typically would type up, and then I copy and paste it and put it into AI just to have it check and see, is there something else I could have said, or is there a way I could have worded it differently? But I always make sure it's still my voice. I'm not going to use something that sounds like I'm, a professor at Oxford or.
When it comes to cheating, Vote indicates teachers can often tell the difference between something written by a student and something written by a computer.
And, Seth, I have a twofold answer to that. One, I feel like any student who would do that and turn that work in, the teachers already know that student. Like I said, when I use AI, I try to make sure it still sounds like my voice. So the teacher knows what those individual student voices sound like in their writing. And oftentimes the student, their little brains just aren't developed enough to think, oh, I probably should take a look at this and make sure that it sounds like me. They'll just turn it in. So along with the teacher knowing the student, knowing, hey, this really wasn't your original work, but there are also AI detectors. And so oftentimes we have had a couple of situations where it does appear that the student did use AI. And so then the teacher's able to take that information and run it through an AI detector. And those are pretty cool because it will tell you, 90% sure this is AI, or here are the parts that are AI. So I played around with those sometimes and take things that I have actually written and just put in to say, okay, what will the AI detector do to this? And sometimes my writing, it appears to be AI generated, but it was really just me.
Preventing students from cheating with AI is all about setting expectations. Get more on all things Bement schools by finding them on social media. News time is 25 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Thursday morning. We streamed to Facebook and YouTube this morning, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We'll come back and wrap things up coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
News time is 26 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Does an early planting season mean early insect pressures? Kelly Estes is the State Ag Pest Survey Coordinator.
The possibility is always there. And yeah, I was on my way to a junior high track meet last week, and I saw one planter rolling. And then on the way home from Mount Zion, I was behind another, moving fields, moving farms. I'm not sure, but it's a good reminder that, we are entering the growing season, and the plants are going to be growing and the insects are going to start getting active here as it warms up. We're still in the pretty early stages, and temperatures are still kind of variable. We get that taste or hint of spring with the warm weather and the sunshine, and there are still bits of cold sneaking back in. And so I don't think we're full out ready for insects, but as we are hitting mid to late April, when we're going to see some of these corn plants emerging, I think it's going to be smart to pay attention to what's going on.
You can follow Estes on X, formerly Twitter. Her handle is IL Pest Survey. President Trump took to the Rose Garden in Washington Wednesday to announce reciprocal tariffs that go into effect April 9th. The president's move calls for a baseline 10% tariff on all U.S. trading partners, with countries like China receiving a 34% tariff. In downstate Illinois, Republican Congressman Darren LaHood says,
tariffs, to me, are taxes. They're taxes on my farmers. They're taxes on my constituents and consumers and manufacturers. But tariffs can be used in a strategic and tactical way to go after bad actors, particularly like China. China plays by a different set of rules and standards. They cheat, they steal, they take our intellectual property. And so you have to use tariffs when you have bad actors like China. So I think what the president wants to do is his goals are exactly what we should have on, again, holding bad actors accountable, but also figuring out, can we bring more auto jobs back to the United States? Can we bring more manufacturing jobs back to the United States? Tariffs can be used to help and assist when you have countries that aren't treating America the same way that we treat them.
President Trump's tariffs include 20% on the European Union, 32% on Taiwan, and 46% on Vietnam. The president's move rattled Wall Street, with Dow futures down more than 1,100 points on the news. News time, 29 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. We stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.